Okay, I pressed the button.
So we're ready. So I'll call the meeting back to order, and we'll continue with our discussion with Jeff regarding the project. Sorry we had to interrupt. It was a good discussion, but lots of different ideas going around. So I'm not sure, Jeff, if you've got anything definitive so far out of the discussion.
Well, I'm hearing a number of things. I'm hearing that we want to hook people up where possible. I hear that we want it to be feasible for people. I hear we obviously need to be sustainable as the county going forward with our infrastructure and understanding there's ongoing maintenance. It sounds like we do have the ability and want to push more water through the pipelines, because that's only good for the county to help generate revenue. If we can be producing and servicing at our maximum, that's great. There's still, I guess, the question, or if there's any other ideas of how do we go about implementing it. We've heard, go ahead and do the study on the full 731 people, get a really, really good cost estimate, feasibility report, look at what exactly is needed or not needed to make it happen. The other one that I've heard is let's go out and talk to the public and try to garner some interest and minimize the number of people or locations that we're going to study on. However, the issue with that was we're going to have a real hard time getting a true input or commitment from anybody if they are not aware of how much it's going to cost them, because that's the big question for every landowner in the county is, what's the cost to me if you want me to sign up for this program? And as Todd mentioned, he's in for $1,000. I was going to ask him if he didn't know the price, if he was in or not, because that's where we get to. If are you in or are you out? Well, yeah, but what's the price, or what might I be looking at? You know what I mean? So I mean, even if we estimated that, under the previous project, each service connection cost in the neighborhood of that $37,000, my guess is that we're going to be a little bit cheaper this time. So I can't say that for sure. And again, it depends on who all we solicit as part to come into it. But even if we were at that $30,000 mark or $32,000 mark, the question from those people is still going to beg, well, okay, that's great, but what are you going to subsidize for me? And then I'll make my decision as to whether I want to come in. I think the third thing that we talked about was, getting rid of that $7,700 registration fee and allowing people to sign up as they see fit. Maybe getting a larger group of registrations together and getting a contractor to come in and hook up 10, 15, 20 units at a time. Implementation plan of some flavor. The thing we've talked about in the past and with the history and the track record that we have with this project, I think we know that running it, in incremental steps through an implementation plan is not going to save us money. I think we've found that the best money saving for us in this project is doing as much as we can and compounding as much work and experiencing the cost savings through sheer volume of work that we've put out. So short answer is no, I have got nothing quite definitive yet, but I agree there's been a lot of great discussion as to possibilities.
So I can't see that we can do much without doing the study, spending the money on the study. I really don't see it any other way. Is this a today decision? The faster it's done, perhaps obviously the better, but this is part of the budget that won't be passed for some time, correct? Jeff and Clarence and Kevin?
Yeah, so this earlier this year, I did speak with council, and we talked about looking at a phase 2 of the rural water project. And the reason I'm bringing it here to discuss is because I wasn't personally comfortable just going out and spending $70,000 on a study without having this discussion. In discussions with the engineering firm that we've been speaking with, they feel that they would probably be able to come up with all of this study, opinion of probable costs, the statistics, the schedule of quantities by sometime this fall, probably October, November time, if they were kicked loose right now. But obviously this is $70,000 we don't currently have in the 2020 operating budget.
Okay.
So that's, I guess, another option to think about as to whether we do want to push the study through this year and try for, a 2020 final budget time, or to have a solid number down, or what we could look at, or if we just want to look at this as a 2021 item and look at doing the study in January of 2021. That's an option as well. There's a lot of moving factors, a lot of moving parts. I heard Clarence talking while I was still eating there that there's some funding announcements coming out today that I'm just not familiar with, but I did overhear it. So a lot of things to consider, I think.
Okay. Kevin, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think the study, as I mentioned, I think is imperative to do, because we do need those numbers. And even though 70,000 seems like a lot, it's really just about $100 a connection, right? So it's not it's not big in terms of the overall project, and I do think we need that, because it may come in more feasible than the last time, because there's a lot of things that went in, a lot of long lines. So another thing I was going to mention is I think the county share was about 25 million for the last goal of everybody that we connected. So that was the subsidy per user. We could divide that out and borrow the money and do it again like we did before. We could also connect people and offer them a payment plan, maybe interest-free, like Todd had mentioned. Not everybody's going to live for 25 years, but we maybe shorten it up a little bit. I think that's a good idea. But let's get the costs and get that hammered out first, because that's critical.
I agree. Clarence?
Can't hear you, Clarence.
Sorry. I was joking a little bit about the announcement today, but quite frankly, if we can call already, I think we should be applying. If he's going to take it away one way, let's get it back another. And I really don't think we're going to have a substantial project going with our money. We're going to have some money somewhere else to fund that last bit for rural water users. And if we can get the money from the government, let's try and do it.
Yeah, as soon as possible.
Well, I mean, the announcement was today, so the details aren't going to be for another couple weeks, I'm sure. But I mean, it's for infrastructure. Right.
And if we can decide today, though, that this is going to be a as soon as possible type of project rather than wait, it might be worthwhile.
Well, that was my question. Is it shovel ready? And can we shovel ready?
Well, maybe Jeff has an answer to that. I guess not, if we're talking about a study today, or if a study would be even paid for. But who knows? Who knows? It's a question.
Shovel ready is something that I think is open for debate. I don't find a definition of it anywhere that I look. Tender ready, shovel ready, whatever you want to call it. My opinion, my personal opinion of a shovel ready project, it is a project that you have a very good opinion of probable costs. You have the design done, maybe not done, but done in theory, that you could finalize a design and really kick a tender out within a couple of weeks. And, if we were to go ahead and undertake this $70,000 look at this, In my opinion, when that shook out, probably, if I sent the notice today for them to get going on it, probably by October, I would say this would be shovel ready, tender ready, and it could really be today. We know the number of users, we can guess the length of pipe, we can come up with somewhat of an estimate, but the feasibility of it is another big concern, right? Different houses, elevations, can we get water there? Can't we get water there? Are all questions that need to be answered as well. So,
Right.
echoing what Kevin said about let's find out the price. Let's do that. I think it will, like I said, probably about 15 times already, and you're probably sick of hearing it. Nobody's going to garner interest or show their interest in this project unless they know what the bottom dollar is for them. And until we know what the project's going to cost, and council as a group can have a discussion about the funding of this project, I don't think we can answer that question for people.
Right. Wayne?
Why do we keep beating around the bush? Let's just approve the bloody study, get it going. So we're all interested in getting this water project going, and we really shouldn't do anything until we have that study, or at least have that study in the process. So let's get going with it and stop talking about it for the next 6 months. Let's just go.
Would we have to wait till our next council meeting, or can we make a decision like that today, Kevin?
No, you can make that decision anytime.
So we could make it today?
Yeah. We would just follow up with a formal motion for next council.
Okay. So basically today we just need to see if people are supportive of it. So maybe you put your thumbs up if you're supportive of this project. Now, I can't see Ellen once again. I'm just going to see if I can find. I've got Lionel, Kelly, Brian, Wayne, Anne Marie. Ellen has raised her hand. Good. Tracy, Hubie, Clarence, Molly. Yep. Everyone has supported the notion of making this official, but in the meantime, you got some time to get working on it, Jeff. Okay? So we've got made for now. And Jeff, I believe that's all for you today.
That's all from me.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, Mark, you're on.
Good afternoon, Council. Paving plan and paving tax. Trying to look at the economic situation here right now. You have the pre-budget planning form in front of you. My approach to this was looking at areas where we could maybe reduce some of the taxation that we have upon our taxpayers without impacting any service levels. I do want to urge a little bit of caution with this though for council, because in the long term, there are definitely service level impacts because the funding needs to be there for overlays and any future paving projects. But I was looking at this from a perspective of a short term deferral of collecting this tax to afford some relief, but not be a permanent solution, but more or less try to look at when things kind of stabilize, because there are a number of costs that are coming back to county council and our taxpayers. The rural policing with RCMP costs and things. So what we've done is we've highlighted what the 10-year paving plan accomplishments have been and how much money has been invested into new pavements over the 10 years, right around the $46 million invested. Council has also gone to the extent of partnering with Alberta Transportation on some projects and stuff, primarily Highway 873 and 876, as we're currently working on. Jeff did identify to me that pavement on 876 is being placed today. I just got that kicked off. And furthermore, figure 2 is the 20-year paving plan and paving overlay. With that, everything highlighted in yellow are the actual projects for upgrading current gravel surface roads to paved surface roads. And unless I need to be corrected by Matt, let's not forget that there was a borrowing from the infrastructure fund to make the partnership with the province happen, which is why you're seeing the overlays funded in the paving tax. And with that, you can see that One Tree Road will be funded through the paving tax planned for 2021, with the study being completed this year in 2020. You also have Silver Sage Road overlay that looks to be coming due in 2022. I'm not sure where we're at with condition review on that, but I know Jeff wanted to include that in our rural road study that we'll be doing this year yet. 2023 overlay of Range Road 15-0 between Highway 542 and Highway 1. So we have a number of projects coming up there. The one item that I want to identify to council on the 20-year paving and paving overlay plan, you see Lake Newell Resort Block 4 and Lake Newell Resort Block 1. Those numbers are currently in red. We have to take a better look at Blocks 1 and 4 in Lake Newell Resort that were originally done in the 94 through 97 period when they were originally developed. But with the current situation with curb and gutter, the current subgrade with those roads and the settlements and things that have happened, it's all kind of subpar. And our belief right now is we should be going in there and doing a complete rebuild on those roads for all internal roads in those 2 blocks. And those numbers are subject to change, and I'm going to say they'll change significantly. Probably add an extra 0 behind each of those numbers at very least, and that might be where we end up, but I think there'll be more than that to it. Just looking to open up that discussion. I heard some of the opening remarks about, we can't put this off because it funds future projects and the overlays and stuff, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I was just really trying to look at this short-term window here and trying to afford some relief where we have some significant costs coming on board here. So looking for that discussion. Answer any questions I can.
Any thoughts, Clarence?
Well, I guess to me, it's not going to be a reduction in tax. It's just going to be an ability to say we're not going to use this money for paving. And I guess sure where I stand on that. It's like Brian says, paving is one of the things that we're going to have to spend money on, and maybe we need some flexibility with those dollars, but it shouldn't be interpreted as a reduction of the rate. So if it's essentially just to give more flexibility, fine, but a reduction of the mill rate to that amount, I think it's just pie in the sky at the moment.
And Mark, clarify, the paving tax has to be used for paving, correct?
As council has laid it out, that is the intention, yes.
And So it could also be used for the overlays.
Yes.
Thank you. So any recommendation to do this would be for short-term only, obviously.
That's what I would look at, because as I've got in the listing there, we've grown our pavement by 130 kilometers of road. So in that 10-year window, 20 years from now, some of it 10 years from now, we're going to have to start looking at those overlays to keep that level of service where it's at now, to keep the region and our ratepayers with good quality asphalt paved roads. Based on condition, you might be able to push that out, right? We want to spend that money when it's accountable of us to do it, to catch that degradation at the right time, that the initial investment in the road base and whatnot is kept and beneficial. But yeah, the short term being a year or two to see if things stabilize out for ourselves, if council's to consider it. But it's just something that I kind of approach, that if there's something that we need to do to help our taxpayers out for the immediate short term, this could be an option. Most days I'd recommend against it myself, because it's very important to keep funding our infrastructure the way we have it. And not to undermine any colleagues or anything, but we see Alberta Transportation do it all the time. When their funding gets cut, they don't do the crack sealing that reduces the life expectancy of the asphalt roads. They reduce in other service areas, and that's not how we work. That's not how we want to work. We want to base it on condition. We want to put that investment into our roads to keep them in good standing and good quality on our asset registry. And it's an attraction thing to the region too, right? Keep that economy growing as best we can and support it as much as we can. Just looking that there are other expenses coming on here, and we're not sure where things are going to end up, and was kind of a short-term thought that council might want to consider anyway.
And I appreciate that. I guess I'm thinking it might have to be part of a bigger discussion when we finally find out exactly how we are going to be affected by this loss of income from oil and gas who use our paved roads. It might be the only way we get any money out of them. So I don't know, I'm reluctant myself to defer right now. I think it's a pretty necessary amount of money raised. Other ideas? Wayne?
Something that a lot of people probably not going to like, but I'm thinking that to cut down on our road maintenance, and I'm talking gravel and stuff, that maybe we have to start looking at putting road bands on in the spring or for heavy rain conditions, because hey, if it's costing us money to fix those roads and we can cut the cost down, we are going to be short money. So we've got to try and look at ways to save money. That might be something we want to look at.
It might. Tracy?
I'll let Kelly go ahead. She's been waiting for a while, and I'll go after.
Anne Marie and Tracy are my angels. I must be off Molly's radar.
On now. Oh, and Ellen is back now too. Okay, good. Go ahead.
Okay. So again, Mark, I'm going to question you on this 20-year paving plan. Road 180 from 550 to Highway 1 is off this list. And I don't know who keeps taking it off. I keep saying that it's a viable project, and the author keeps taking it off. So.
Okay, so when you're looking at the 20-year, you're not looking at council's complete paving plan. you're only looking at 20 years worth of funded projects for what I have in this listing right here. And don't forget, a whole bunch of overlay funding got pulled into this with the borrowing from the infrastructure fund for the 876 and 873.
So you're saying that that project has been bumped out more than 20 years?
Oh yeah, many projects have been bumped out more than 20 years. Absolutely. So we've been very ambitious with the paving program, and yeah, unless council wants to reprioritize what roads come first in that listing, that is what you're seeing today based on replenishing the infrastructure fund and how we fund those overlays versus getting gravel roads upgraded to a non-band paved standard as council has identified. Matt, you don't have anything past the 20 years on there, but we know what falls out after that, right?
Right. The Questica database only goes out 20 years, so we're somewhat limited just by that database. We do have the projects listed there, but anything past those dates is listed with a to be determined, right? We either need a lot of growth that'll give us some extra dollars into our paving reserve, or a different philosophy on how much we allocate towards future paving projects.
So who is next? Anne-Marie?
So originally I thought, well, maybe we could let that paving tax go to give people a relief. But if Wayne is talking about putting road bans on, then I think, oh no, let's keep the paving tax and never put any road bans on unless you absolutely have to. Because that's what we are so proud of, that we have a region with no road bans. We want to support the businesses. We want to have economic development. So no road bans.
Lionel? Tracy?
Our paving program has been one of the most appreciated programs we've done, other than the project perhaps. But it is appreciated by almost everyone he's talked to. I would strongly recommend that we maintain the 0.5 and keep that program in place and keep the paving future for paving as close to it as we can. We could add, I would personally add some subdivisions. I'm an industrial guy, so I'm thinking industrial subdivisions. You know, one of our they're larger taxpayers. You know, I look at the Martin subdivision, for instance. You know, nice to have it there.
Tracy? Kelly?
I guess just a off the cuff thought. What about if we look at our drainage program with the EID, and maybe not putting so much into it per year, maybe cut that back a little bit, and then we could free up, like, so we put in what, $2 million a year for the EID drainage program, and I know that in the long term it does save roads. So, but then, like, I think we should still for sure keep the paving tax, because we need that. We need to repay for these big roads that we've just done. But I don't know, just a thought. I'm not saying that's the all, but I'm just wondering, is that something to look at, is to maybe don't quite do as much with the drainage program?
I'm not sure how to respond with that one, because that has really hugely subsidize the amount that we invest into gravel road rehabilitation. By improving those roadside ditches, we've alleviated the need to reconstruct many, many, many miles of gravel road because we've deepened the ditches, dried the subgrades to those roads, and they are performing better than they ever have. It's also afforded a lot of other benefits to our ratepayers. You know, we are having to deal with Wetlands Water Act approvals and things like that, but I do believe that from the 2010-2011 calendar year, when we experienced significant flooding and impact to residential homes on acreages and places like that, that's really where that program is showing to prove itself invaluable. Because in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't necessarily translate to anything to us, but the insurance claims and things like that that were being filed back in the day were huge. And the impact to individuals' lives and stuff around their homes was also significant. Be a hard one for me to also suggest to council to pull away from, because we're working on it, and I think we're getting to a very important area, being Rosemary. That's where we have some significant improvements that we need to do to improve the quality of life for our ratepayers. After Rosemary, there's still more on that plan, but Rosemary is really, really dead flat. And it takes a long time for things to drain out. Our roads suffer significantly in that area in spring. Farmers, ranchers, industry, because there's definitely more industry taking place in that area these days as well. Heavy oil industry in a way, really depend on those roads. And it hasn't been good the past few years for them. And that does stem back to that 2010-11 period. But I'm here trying to offer some of those solutions. This was the one that didn't have that immediate impact on service levels today if a decision was made, but we would still have to look at it for the future and how it would roll out. Part of my opinion is developed on the fact that if we don't have the money, you don't build it. If we don't have that future funding, don't build it today to put a council or the taxpayer at that burden in the future. Maintain what we have today to as high a standard as we possibly can, that if we can afford it moving forward, when we can have more taxation coming in or whatever, then start back in on the upgrading gravel roads to a paved standard. But to fund those overlays moving forward, I think is critical. We've, in the 10 years and the years prior when we got pavement put in place, we've connected communities to communities and commodities to markets. There are definitely some niceties to have out there moving forward, but I'm not saying that it's necessary or that the region depends on them at this time to be able to move forward, I guess. So continue to let council debate that, but that's some more perspective on EID partnership and future pavement.
Wayne and Hubie?
I agree with Mark, what he's saying there. For one thing, I do not want to deplete our reserves. That's there for replacing equipment in the future. But there's projects like the dust abatement program. Maybe we got to look at it to 100% if you want it done. There's probably other things where we subsidize ratepayers that we got to recover more of our costs there. This is not going to be comfortable, and it's not. People are not going to be happy. But we have to make some hard decisions, and maybe some of these freebies we've been handing out, we're going to have to say, no, you got to start paying for them, because it's going to get tough.
Hubie?
No, I don't believe we should cut back on the drainage. We have to keep doing them because they keep our roads up. The roads will deteriorate. They'll fall apart, and you'll have a lot of ratepayers complaining about our roads.
Brian?
And I would agree. And I guess it goes back to the core basis for our responsibilities as a municipality. I feel that the roads and the drainage are right in number one and two, either drainage first or roads first. You know what? It hurts me to say this, but I'd sacrifice parks and recreation over roads. So we gotta do those ones, and non-banned. Keep your farmers and equipment out there that's got to use those roads at the sensitive times of year. Keep it non-banned. You talk to guys that move products up and down the roads, and they say that's the one thing that's the most frustrating when they leave the county of Newell, is going to an area where suddenly they're a lawbreaker if they're going down a road because it's banned, and it prevents them from doing their job and getting their products to market, and so that'll directly affect. And if we have to adjust tax rates to make that happen, then that's our responsibility. And it's not an easy decision, but ultimately that's where our responsibilities lie. It's the biggest cost thing, and it's the one thing I think we said over and over here again, that we have some pride in what we've done. And please let's not go back from that part at least.
Tracy? No? Kate, I miss anybody else on discussion? So once again, when we understand better how much we're losing, Mark has presented us with an option, with the paving plan possibility of deferring or changing its use, so that can be a decision made then. So we can go on to the bridge files, Mark.
I was just going to say, before we leave that subject, I did take a snippet off of the website as to what our current listing for the paving plan looks like. So if council wants that refresher, it is available on the website always. And what you see on the website or in the email that I sent to you is the order of paving priorities. Now, 873, 876, Range Road 16-4, those are obviously off the list because they're either in progress or complete. But everything else that falls out from that is there. And I believe that should match up with what I sent you in this pre-budget meeting form. But you'll see that there are no dates, and there's no funding tied to any of it on the website, because it's as we have the funding available, we would bring it to council's attention. So, and again, the overlays have been brought in to be funded from the paving tax because of the borrowing from the infrastructure fund, which is where they were originally funded from for overlays. So if we do want to move on,
Mark, just before we do, the current program could be updated, so right, because the East Gem Road's done also.
Yes, the 876 and East Gem Road, those first three are done. So that will get updated sometime this year. I don't know why East Gem was still sitting on there, but we obviously missed the update on the website. But everything from Highway 1 down to Township Road 18-4, Antelope Creek Road, that is the order that things are listed in currently.
Okay.
Ellie's got a question.
Yeah. So R180 to Highway 1, Highway 50 to Highway 1 is off. Seeing.
Okay,
And it was on.
Kelly, because I'm not sure where it would have went, but I'll follow that up and get back to council.
Thank you. It's, what is it, 2 miles, Mark?
Yeah, I'd have to, I'm not looking at my map right now on that. I think that's what it might be.
So it's fallen off at some point, and I bring it up every time. Because it's the last connector road from 550 to number 1 that is not completed.
$180.
Yeah, north from Sundial up to the 550. Is that TR 180?
17.5. That's here, Range Road 17.5, Latham Road 2002.
Sorry, yeah, I gave you the wrong address.
That's south.
17.5, okay.
Yeah. Go south to 20 of 2 and then 20 of 2 east. No, that's not well, that's west of Sundial, right?
No, north of Sundial. Sundial and go north to 550.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that one came off the list a long time ago, Kelly. I'll try to go through some history on that. 17.5, 550 to Highway 1.
But the only road I remember would be like up to the 550 at the Dwin Gowdy corner.
Yeah, that's the same one you're talking about, isn't it, Kelly?
Isn't that what you're talking about, Kelly?
Yeah,
It's not
from
Sundial.
well, Sundial going north to Windy Corner.
No, Sundial, you have to go another mile west before you can go north to the 550.
It's like where Baxter's used to live on the corner going north to, anyhow.
Yeah, we can touch base on that one.
All right, let's go
You
on
guys
to.
you're both right, because it depends on if Kelly means the land of Sundial and Mark talks about where the actual feedlot is. You're both right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Okay, second one, if we're moving along, bridge file 76809, Fisher Bridge. This one hasn't formed much of a discussion in recent years, but I was aware that the infrastructure funding was going to be announced from the federal government, provincial governments. Really wondering if, I guess, encouraging council to maybe give consideration to go back to the lobbying table with the province. It's a Class A bridge file structure, which the County of Newell has no responsibility for whatsoever, with the exception of building the roads leading up to that bridge file. A bunch of engineering was done a number of years ago. There's no reason why it isn't good today, unless something significantly changes. I've included numerous pages of all references to council motions and minutes and everything from municipal committee, when it used to be municipal committee was strictly a meeting of public works and county council. And then we had a separate council meeting, and then we had a separate ag services board meeting and everything. So any reference you see to municipal committee meeting was from the pre-2012-ish period, 2013-ish period, when we moved here, when we combined things. But lots and lots and lots and lots of history, lots of lobbying effort over the years. Eventually what happened was we just hit a wall. We hit a wall with Alberta Transportation. The minister wasn't willing to fund the replacement of the structure. We went so far to, I guess, have the threat that we were going to build the road and make and really put that lobbying effort of the public and the council on the province, the pressure, I guess, to try to get that bridge replaced. Right now, agricultural equipment cannot cross that bridge. It's a steel truss bridge, so you might get your farm tractor across it maybe, but you're not pulling any equipment across it. You're not getting your harvester across it. So the landowners have to divert themselves, reroute themselves, detour themselves a number of miles east to go south, to go back west, and same thing to return home. Thinking that maybe one of the solutions is that instead of getting into a partnership and committing local taxpayer dollars, we try to lobby the province to say what funding we might get through infrastructure funding, apply it for the County of Newell as something to get that Fisher Bridge file replaced and get that region in a good state for agriculture and industry to continue doing what they do best, which is stimulate the economy and put people to work. One part of that summary, I have a yellow highlight in there about bridge file 75926. That bridge file was a concrete bridge file immediately south of the Bazzano Water Distribution Center water treatment plant. We spent $1 million getting that project off the ground and replacing it with large diameter culverts. And the most affordable solution to that was to bring the north-south traffic to a T intersection and divert them east and then back south. However, Alberta Transportation identified that if what you tell us is that the north-south route is not your primary traffic corridor, Fisher Bridge will receive no priority moving forward because it doesn't seem that important to the region. So we maintained the north-south corridor by redesigning that bridge file 75926 to keep open flow of traffic north-south, to hopefully keep that lobbying effort and that leverage in place with the province to say, that is our connector, that is where the traffic is generated, it needs to cross that bridge, and go at it. As it stands right now in the highlights that I had for this, 2032 is when bridge file 76809 Fisher Bridge looks to be up for replacement. Again, upon regular inspections, maintenance, that could potentially get pushed out even further. So this once was a high priority item for council. I'm suggesting maybe we get it back on the radar and see what we can do with the province to get it done. Open for discussion.
Hubie?
So Mark, does that have to be a new bridge or can it be done with culverts, big, huge culverts?
Through the summary and some of the design aspects, they were looking at large diameter culverts to be done. I did not find the time to get back through all of the options from 14, 15 years ago to have all of that information on hand. But if this is something we want to bring back to the forefront, I will definitely get back into what the ultimate design looked like, because we want to ensure that agricultural equipment and everything of the sorts for the next 30 years to 60 years moving forward are supported through whatever gets put in place, right?
Kelly?
As you can imagine, I'm in support of bringing this back to our table and seriously looking at it. It used to be a numbered highway by the provincial government and no longer. So it's been on council's plate for, as you can see by Mark's good notes here. I spoke with former councillor Bob Armstrong, and very passionate about it. As you can imagine, it was on his table back in the day. And it's a major thoroughfare to the Bazzano Dam. And if you travel that bridge, if you're in the area, pay close attention to the floor of the bridge. It's definitely a situation if you look at it now. The other thing I want to point out when you do go visit this bridge is the access, whether you come from the south or from the north. Our county access is very risky. Windy hilled situation, and just from a safety perspective, it's not great. And of course, the final thing is that only single vehicle access across this. Bob Armstrong tells me it's 107 years old. So there you go. I'm totally in favor. We did have a semi, an oil field truck stuck on the hill. He came from the south, and the semi tried to access the bridge. And he was just following his GPS from his office, and the GPS told him to cross this bridge, and he needed help getting out of there because he was following the GPS, and his office telling him that it's a secondary highway, so you should be able to travel it.
Other comments? Ryan?
I'm never opposed to doing a partnership with Alberta Transportation. I'm very skeptical of any success, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try, right?
Right.
So I'm supportive of it as long as it's a partnership. I don't see the county funding this to anything more than 50%, and even that is probably questionable. But if they're willing to do if it's 50% for the entire project, the road straightening and the bridge, I think it would be probably acceptable in my opinion. But I know previously when we looked at it, I think it was going to be almost $1 million for the road and $1 million for the bridge. So then we're each paying our own way. But whatever you can do, I guess, is acceptable. This bridge has been on this desk as long as I've been on council, and it's not going to go away. And everything that's been said is 100% true. It's a bottleneck if it's not there, because traffic would have to go around. There is other means. I mean, you're not landlocking anybody, but it just makes it a very difficult alternative if you had to go. I can't remember. I think it's the little bridge that you have to go. The little bridge that you have to go farther east to get around there. So, but yeah, all the reasons are right, and I think you have to look at it in the same context as we have with 876 and 873 out to Oasis. Is if we can do a partnership with transportation, that's great. But I'm a little skeptical in this day and age whether we're going to get any kind of a willing partner, I guess, is the way. But if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, it's worth the ask for sure. Any other comments? Good enough information, Mark?
Yeah, I guess the question that I have remaining is that something that council wants to put on an agenda with a future meeting of the Minister of Transportation? Is this something that you are looking at administration should engage with the regional director to start that conversation? Or, and what position do we want to take? That is it, we'd be willing to go in a partnership and talk about the details, or are we looking at a partnership where potentially the infrastructure money that we were just talking about before lunch is something that we throw out there, that if you'd award us a portion of whatever we could get in that infrastructure money, divert it to the replacement of that structure, and we would still maybe take care of the road construction ourselves. I don't know. I'm trying to find those ways that are cost effective, that may not impact our taxpayer with costs, if possible.
Right. Well, I think all of these subjects that involve the province has a lot to do with if they've just announced this infrastructure money. So maybe we'll have some more information by the time we have our next council meeting even. So it would make it easier decisions. Anne-Marie?
Oh, that's a good suggestion. I also was thinking maybe you could send a letter to just ask them for an update. Let's see if it's on their list and what their plans are for it.
And that's also, why not? Like, let's do that. I mean, the last time we talked about it was in 2014 with Daryl Camplin, who's no longer in the South, and Darren Davidson probably would know something about it. And they might have a feel for where some of this money might go that the province is going to spend on infrastructure as well, Mark. Be worth a phone call even.
Yeah, no, sounds reasonable. We can do that.
So, Mark, is that it for you today?
I believe so. I'm going to hang around and listen to the rest. So if there's anything that comes up, I should be here.
We're at item 3.5 on our agenda, and that's corporate services. And Lane, I'm sure, is, yeah, there's Lane down in my bottom right-hand corner.
So this item, I don't know, is going to require too much in the way of discussion, just more or less putting it on council's radar for consideration here in the coming year. Of course, October 2021 is the next local authorities election, and we will need to gear up for conducting the election. In the past, we have had Susan Yokoyama appointed as the returning officer. She's now working in other capacities within the organization. And the question is going to be whether we want to have someone brought in from outside so that there's some arm's length that's maintained, or if there is going to be an interest in just having it dealt with by someone within the organization and finding individuals with service capacity to do that. Really not too much in the way of discussion required on this, just again, putting these items on the agenda for conversation or for review here today, so that it is on council's radar as matters that will need to be dealt with during the coming year.
Right. Lane, just a question of the arm's length, why we looked outside sort of or away from management or council in the past?
Well, it just, the whole issue about conducting the election, like Elections Alberta and Elections Canada, is arm's length from the government to make sure that there is full independence. In the absence of council appointing someone outside of the organization as the returning officer, the CAO is the returning officer. So it defaults to that position anyway. But that option is there for council. It's not necessary to go outside the organization by any means.
Okay. Other questions regarding that? I guess I would say that it would be great if, I mean, if it's in-house, if there's capacity. But we will be talking about it again. Brian?
Well, you just took the words out of my mouth. I think if we have experience and capacity within our organizations, and it saves us, a few bucks from staff that are presently able to do that work, we should try to do that. If not, certainly I would support it. But knowing the expertise that we have between Susan and Kevin and yourself, Lane, I think you guys can do it. But saying that, I leave it into your hands. But
all right. Anne-Marie?
Yeah, same feelings here. If we can do it in-house, let's do that. And the second point you raised in your Wayne, is about strategic planning, and maybe wait till the 2022 budget. Like just look back to strategic planning that we did. I think it's good for new councillors to maybe at least have a few meetings behind them before they have a strategic planning session. So that gets us into 2022.
Duly noted.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Lane, that is all?
Correct.
Thank you. And Matt, attracting development and tax incentives.
I think I should just let Kevin do all the talking on this one. He initiated it there. We kind of kicked this one around last council meeting. I provided a summary of the legislation that enables municipalities now to engage in some of this tax incentive policy. It's pretty open for how creative you can be. The section of the MGA that facilitates this for us is 364.2, tax incentives for non-residential property. Bullet points here: for the purpose of encouraging development or revitalization of properties, either in the non-res or machinery and equipment class, you can offer full or partial exemptions from taxation. You can defer the collection of tax. Kind of the heavy lifting has to be done in establishing the criteria that need to be met to qualify for an exemption or deferral. Such as the type of business, or maybe you're looking at a specific geographic area in the county you want to target. We'd have to establish a process for those applications to be submitted, to be considered, for the applicants to appeal to council if they don't like the decision that administration makes. And then the limit there is 15 consecutive years for an exemption or deferral. But once that 15 years is up, you can provide another subsequent exemption or deferral for 15 years. So I think what I've heard from our CAO is that you might not want to beggar the county for an extended period of time, but there might be some appetite for short-term deferrals or tax incentives. I've repeated his suggestion there about the 75, 50, 25% over a 3-year period. And really, the point of bringing it up here is to see how much interest, if any, there is in from council and having staff pursue a thinking out of the box exercise and pulling things together for what a program might look like, as well as to solicit from council any specific criteria that you would like to see apply if we were to go down this path of developing a tax incentive policy.
And so this is to sort of not, it's to get more development happening in our communities.
Yeah, that would be the intent with that shocking announcement we've got, and I don't think that was totally surprising. We knew things were headed south, just with it being so abrupt. You know, it may be time for us to think outside of the box and see if there's something we can do to attract job-creating non-residential development in the county to replace what we're losing there. As a general rule, I'm not a big fan of playing these games, but you know, as Kevin pointed out in his opening remarks, it's been pretty flat. I think the county gets overlooked. Those of us who are here realize what a great place it is. It's pretty strategic. I mean, we've got a lot of great resources around. Some of the best roads you'll find in the province. Excellent recreation opportunities. I mean, it's kind of a hidden gem that people discount, and maybe it's time to get up and wave our arms and get people get some notice.
Right. So this is part of the bigger well, the big discussion of what may hit us. And Kevin, did you hear anything back from Michaela?
Yeah, I talked to Heather yesterday, and she's in Edmonton this week in session, so she's gonna set a time for next week, and I told her we would do our best to meet whatever schedule she can give us. I hope that will work for council, at least if we can get a number of members on a call with her. I'm sure she's fully aware of these impacts, at least I would hope she is. But we do, in my view, we do need some assistance, because while it's not a surprise that they were targeting us, it's a surprise how they come about it, and you know, when they give you 2 or 3 weeks of the window to deal with it in the middle of summer when people are farming and, you know, on holidays, and yeah, it's hard. But she's going to let me know. She's going to talk to her and set a time next week, and then I'll shoot that out as soon as I get it.
Too bad it couldn't be during council on the 6th, but we'll have to take what we can get, right? So along with that, Anne-Marie, go ahead.
Back to those tax incentives that Matt was talking about. You know,
Yes.
I could, in combination with the marketing specialist that we would hire, instead of doing the joint economic development, we use that money for our own specialist, and that would be, you know, a tool in his toolbox if he has the council behind him to find developers and investors with some tax incentives to use.
So you're suggesting opting out of the economic development thing that we're in now and doing a marketing position just for.
I think I am. Like, it's maybe a discussion we need to have, but then why would we stay involved with other municipalities if we really want to focus on our area and increase our growth? Then maybe we should just let economic development group that we have now, just leave them and we do our thing.
Yeah, I don't know how intertwined it all is, but Wayne?
I agree with Anne-Marie on taking that money and having our own development officer. And another thing is, like, we had the solar company in front of us last meeting, and this would be a perfect, get them in, say we're going to give them 25% of what their tax would be for, say, the first 3 years, and then 50%, and then 75%. But then we've got them for 30 years. And that's where the candy is for us, is to keep them here long term. And if we can get some more of those projects, we've got lots of those solar projects on the books, but nothing is happening. If we can give them some incentive, like a tax break, let's do it. If we can get them in here, then in 10 years, they're paying full share, and it'll be good for the county then.
Other thoughts? Kevin, Brian?
Thanks, Madam Reeve. So I hope I didn't sound like I wanted to get out of the joint services economic development, because I do think it offers a different mindset for the region. You know, a lot of business beautification, business attraction, looking at some unique opportunities, etc. But I do think that, you know, when I look at our construction permits issued for 5-year window, you know, we were at roughly at 18 with this year not complete yet on building, and development permits for residences, we were at 46 over a 5-year window. And I guess my point is that if we continue on that trend, that's not getting us anywhere, because a lot of these aren't new. Sometimes they're replacements. Sometimes they're additions. You know, the numbers is what I think we need to try to chase, and if we can chase it with some incentives, it may help. I don't think the incentives will help overall, but I do think it's a concept that we've talked about in the past, just didn't have much appetite for when we had other priorities. But now that things are going to get really tight, you know, I fully support looking at that. And if we do it for a temporary period, because I think Lionel has mentioned before that people will come, and I agree with that, but I do think that they need a boost. And if we can get the word out and chase it a bit, maybe if we can get some balls rolling, maybe it'll snowball a bit. I don't know. There is going to be development for sure. It's just a matter of our area. When I look at tax rates, I mean, Cyprus is the lowest in the province for non-res. You know, and we're just outside of 10 now. You know, and there's 63 rural municipalities, so we're still pretty attractive in the big picture of things, as long as we can keep it that way. And the only way I think we can keep it that way is to grow our assessment.
Lionel? Brian, oh, sorry, Brian, Lionel.
Well, that's killing two birds with one stone. That's pretty smart there, Molly. Or two old farts with one stone. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Yeah, and I agree with you, Kevin, and I think that philosophy is shared by some of us. We've stuck with our guns for a bunch of years when times were good and continued to think that times were going to get good again, and they're not. So let's do something different. Let's try a little tweak. It's not long-term pain that we would be inflicting on a future council or a future county of Newell. And it might provide enough incentive to get stuff going. The other thing that I thought, and maybe I should wait till council initiatives on number 4, but you know, I look at what our strengths of our communities are here, of our county, and we have a lot of natural gas, we have a lot of water, and some of the struggles with natural gas is you know, collecting some of that money. And so have we looked into fuel cell technology? We have Global Thermal in Bassano that, I mean, they're an expert. And we have power lines all over the place. If we could utilize that natural gas and the fuel cell technology to create a stream of revenue, not necessarily that we're doing it all by ourselves, but there's partners out there. And with the tax incentive that we're proposing, maybe that's another avenue that we can look at to say, well, it could be a revenue generator into the long future. And unfortunately, it's not a huge employment opportunity, perhaps. I'm not too familiar with it as far as that goes, but as far as revenue generator, they're both pretty sweet. So. And I also like to go back to Kevin's first comments today about the permitting and the development permits and simplifying that. That makes so much sense, and it would just be a complement to this type of thing. Come here, you know, we'll give you an incentive, you know, we'll make it real easy for you to get going. And, you know, as long as you are willing to work with us, you know, we could probably be the best place in Alberta to set up shop for all the reasons that we all know or make our county valuable.
Thank you, Brian. Lionel.
Well, I'm going to step on the other side of the incentive discussion. I don't believe incentives work. Use Elemental as a good example. They had a big incentive when they built. You got a $13 million incentive from provincial government, and that obviously wasn't enough. And now they're not sure that is to go for attracting business. I think business has to stand on its own feet. Including property taxes are part of their cost of operations. to be sustainable on their own without the municipality to help them.
Anybody else have opinions on the taxes or a marketing type of person for a period of time? I totally believe that we are a well-kept secret. I don't know how you get that out. Maybe that's why we need a marketing specialist. Maybe they know. Maybe they have ideas to make it happen. Anne-Marie?
Well, maybe they do. And I don't know much about marketing specialists, but he or she cannot do any more studies or go out to businesses and get to know them. You know, none of that soft stuff. This person has to come in and get right to work with the incentives or without the incentives. But you know, no more studies, because that's been done. That we don't need that.
No, and I totally agree. This is an action-oriented person. Kevin, do you have anything else to sort of in your mind as to what this person would do? Sell our community? Is that sort of?
Well, in the back of my mind, I thought we would have the person involved with Jeff and Maria and their team, and see if we can align the initiatives with planning and development and economic development, because if we can, everybody uses the word cut the red tape, and I'm not going to use that, but make it a lot more efficient. We still have the timelines for appeals and everything like that we have to follow, so there's only so much time you can shave off. But if we can make the process simple, and we can get people involved in getting the word out and talking to the big developers and those that are looking at investing, creating those relationships, and seeing if and it may, you know, and Lionel could be right, you may not be able to chase it because it's not a huge incentive. If we give, you know, 1 year of taxes over 4 or something like that, or 1.5 year of taxes over 4, it's not, I don't think that's going to be the be all end all, but it may be enough that attracts them here. I don't know, but that's what I was thinking that it would do, is it would kind of align with the planning and development and work together there, so that everybody kind of buys into the concept, and it's guided from an economic development perspective, but also with the planning and development discipline.
Ellen?
I think she clicked her camera.
Ellen?
Her mic.
We can't hear you.
Can hear me. I'm sorry, wrong button. Kevin, I like your idea. Have it in-house, perhaps somebody that can help out temporarily. What do we have to lose? We need perhaps agricultural business that can blend in, or whatever it may be. And that also generate employment and so on. I think we have to lose. I like the idea. And if businesses don't take us up on the offer of incentives, we put it out there and see if it works. Working with the permits too, that can be a lot of hassle. And if that is an easier process, I would say let's see what happens from it. I like it.
So how does this person get the word out beyond our borders? Because I think that's what we're talking about, is it not? Or maybe it isn't. Kevin, you've often talked about the vacant buildings and things, and to look at how does that all fit into this?
Well, I think one of the tasks definitely will be an inventory of what's available, and talking to people and finding out, details on what they have, pulling it together online, getting a package together. I mean, at one point they were going to trade fairs and doing up brochures and handing them out. I think those days are probably done for a while. So obviously that's not going to be something. But there's all kinds of associations and people connected to associations that you can get in contact with, that I think that once they create the relationships and get some of the legwork done for the people that are looking, whether they come or whether they don't come, I do think that that's going to be beneficial, because once the work is done, it's going to be available to anybody that's looking, right? So getting a package together, keeping it current, making contacts with people, and just creating that. So to me, it's going to be a longer term initiative in terms of, not 3 months and all of a sudden people are going to start building. It's going to take a year or 2 or 3 to be able to see some gains on it for sure.
So it's a start. Yeah. Any other thoughts, Clarence?
Well, just as an aside, I guess the first thing I think is that we should have a southeast gateway, and that's known as the 525, and it hasn't been mentioned once yet this year or this meeting. So I want to just make sure that everybody realizes that Highway 525 is probably the only unpaved highway that's numbered, provincial highway that's numbered in our area. So please, on the line, if we could that. Again, if it's a letter, we're writing letters to provincial government, we probably don't have dollars to match them or anything, and they're probably not even interested in paving it. But I do want to bring forth that it is a gateway for our county. Back to how do we generate jobs? Kevin says, we got to bring in some people, not necessarily in this sense, but have to want to come here. People, how do you care of that? It's a good place to do business. It's in a good traffic routes. We have good water. But I don't think as a whole, when an industry to Alberta, they look east of Calgary. I just don't think they do. They look down the road in between the old gateway between Edmonton and Calgary, and that's where it goes. You have to realize who you are, and where you are, what your strengths are. Also, I think the biggest part, this economic development for us right now, one of the main goals should be let people know where you are and what you have to offer. I really do believe that has to be out there somehow. We're not going to go and make business. People have to come to make business, but they're not going to come unless they realize there's something east of Calgary. So how do you enlighten that and make sure they stop halfway between, or not halfway in between, 2/3 of the way to Medicine Hat, and even that's trouble. So, we live in a world where the big guys get bigger, the middle guys disappear. And we're middle. And time again, for the last 10 years, we have seen that. We've been very fortunate that oil and gas has been a very big part of success. success and our ability to do things in this area, but we all knew that slowly that was going to disappear. We're really shock treatment at the moment, and I don't think it's going to be reinvested. You knew what they're saving. That's the sad part. So we're really, you have to noise once in a while. And I don't know how exactly you do that. I suppose that's why we're hiring somebody or thinking about hiring somebody to do that. But I think that's what we have to do. And you have to get them driving past Brooks and seeing the smell, because they just keep going. Part of it. That is part of our identity at the present time. I think it's a strength, but people look, it's that first impression, and you really have to combat it. So I don't know. I have no answers, but we certainly, I think we're in a. And if we can make some noise and we can get some interest and people to do come and have a look and evaluate it after their first impressions, that's great. I mean, we do have lots to offer, but people don't just come because you have recreation. There has to be a business behind it. So, and there has to be opportunity, and there has to be a workforce. We're very, very fortunate to have Lakeside here and the workforce that they have. But boy, how long has it taken for them to actually have that workforce? My gosh, 25 years till right now they've kind of got it under control, but boy, were they battling to get people here all the time. Just some thoughts. There's no answers there. Other than, if we can find somebody who is a real go-getter and communicates what we have and lets people know that there's opportunity, let them know that it's a pretty good place to do business. I don't really think the incentives are going to make a whole lot of difference. Our tax rates are great. We have schools, we have all that type of stuff is there. So, you don't want to sell yourself short either. I mean, if our tax rates are zero, that at the end of the day, probably shouldn't be here. Anyway, just some thoughts. No answers, sorry.
Kelly.
So for me, you would get a tax incentive out of me if you name your business after the Newell. I'm going to get back on that horse. Elemental is promoting, or not Elemental, but Brooks Solar is promoting Brooks. And you talk to all over the radio, it's Brooks Solar. And that is marketing. I don't care. Nobody cares that it's in the county of Newell. If that was full solar, that would be free marketing for us. So for me, a tax incentive if Newell was in the name.
Clarence.
I'm going to get after this. Get over that. The Brooks, they help the county of Newell. So get over it. It doesn't really matter what they call it. If we can use Brooks as a driver and have that business sitting outside of the county of Newell, we're doing just fine. People don't know where the county of Newell is. All their business Brooks, fine. As long as it's located in the county, and most of them will.
So then save your marketing money.
Well, Brooks Elemental, where is it? Who gets the benefit? Who gets the benefit of Lakeside? We don't even have to put up their population base. But you get the business and you get the drive and the trucks that come there, and I mean it's the driving force.
So
But it doesn't
my
matter what
point,
you call it, but this is an area. That's why, just get over what people call things. Because
don't tell me to get
what is
over
good for
something.
the city and what's good for the city is good for us. Most times. We are too damn small to be nitpicking. That's amalgamation. Now, most people don't understand that, but that's the case. And that's why I'm saying we are the middle person in today's business society disappears. There are the small niches and there are the big guys. Middle people are gone. Are gone. And they grow to a certain point and then they can't compete. And somebody says them out. Anyway.
Well, I do believe that if there's ever been a time where our communities need each other for support, it is now, because the reduction of oil and gas income for our whole area is going to be huge. Doesn't matter where you live. It's going to affect everyone. And on that note, Kevin, you were part of the call, and I listened in on the RMA on Friday, and there were some suggestions about what we should be doing quickly in the next few weeks, because it's a very small time frame of what we might, as a municipality, do. Obviously, we have to write a letter to the premier and to I don't know who all, but we need to talk as a council and Kevin as well as to what perhaps we can do in the few weeks to let our public know what's going on. And it's difficult because there's scenarios that the government, did you get a firm idea, Kevin, when they'll make a decision? Or are they going to wait for any input? Do you think they've got a decision made? I guess maybe if we could speak to Michaela, it would be more helpful. But
yeah,
that's,
I think that's what we need to have happen first. We do have to get it out to the public for sure, but we got to know what she knows. We got to find out what a game plan is. I mean, what they suggested is that we get letters sent right away and we get active, but you got 3 weeks. What that tells me is the decision's already made. If somebody's giving you 3 weeks to put an opinion in, they'll listen, but I think it's already been made. Any scenario that they've provided to me, from the bottom of 18% to the top of 29, is a huge hit, as Matt mentioned. So it is not good regardless of what happens. And I just want to put one thing in perspective, just so the council can hear it again. And on our capital plan last year, that we put the 10-year plan, we had $80 million coming from restricted reserves over the next 10 years. And we got 29 million out of operating. So that's $110 million there. So depending on what we're left with, without any tax increases and what we can shave out, we'll probably be able to manage this 10 years, but our restricted surplus may be, nearing down to the bottom if we aren't able to replenish it the way that we have in the past. So I do think we have to get that word out, because they're looking at 90 million bucks in the bank and they're thinking these guys are loaded. But in 10 years, it's pretty much all spent. And I think Matt kind of hit that with his segments there too. So I think whatever we do, we got to get vocal. I know the county hasn't been habitual to a lot of things, but this is something that I think we have to stand firm on. And not only us, all the municipalities that are impacted like us should band together, because things are louder in numbers, I think.
Wayne?
Yeah, I agree with Kevin there. That message has to get out there. And I also think we should compare ourselves to a city that everybody knows about, and that's Detroit. And they did not make the plans that we do. And look where they're at. They're bankrupt. And if this province keeps going to where they're going, there's going to be a lot of municipalities that are going to be bankrupt. And the province in 10 or 15 years is going to have to run them. And maybe a lot of them won't even make it that far. I think that message has to be put out also. Like we have $90 million. That's because we've taken the good times and made them work for the poor times which are coming. And we can keep up our equipment and everything because we do this. And I think that message has to be put forward. The province, I don't think Michaela or a lot of those MLAs realize what municipalities have to do and what they're doing to keep going. And if they keep on with this project, Kevin, you pointed out there's a few that could be going under very shortly, within 5 years or something. And this has to be pointed out to the government.
Brian?
I want to get back to the tax incentive, and I guess what resonates with me is Kevin's statements over the last 10 years and how flat our assessment's been. Don't get me wrong, I'm not somebody that, I don't disagree with you, Lionel, and you, Clarence, as far as when it comes to whether businesses is going to come here for tax reasons or tax incentive reasons. But if we don't do anything different, we're going to get the same results we've had for 10 years. There's nothing in there that's going to magically happen that's going to turn this around. So why not try something different? It's a 3-year plan, and quite honestly, if in a year and a bit another council comes in and decides it wants to do something different, that's their incentive. But I think that doing nothing, you're going to get the same results, which is a flat assessment, and that to me is unacceptable. That to me is something that we have strived to change, and what we've done is we haven't tried to incentivize anything as far as the mill rate goes. Well, this is a suggestion that is not going to cost us a lot of money, and it may just get us some sort of a bump. So I'm in favor of the incentive the way it was presented, and I think that we should consider it as something that moves us in a different direction than what we traditionally have done.
Clarence.
And I don't disagree with that, Brian. But you got to let it be known. People have to know what you have to offer. And you know, we can criticize them looking at the 90 million and saying, you know, they're loaded. This doesn't work that way. Government and business are a little different. When you have a business, you reinvest that stuff and you make money with it. And so it was for me a real shock, you know, that we put such emphasis on those dollars as a municipality. And I realize it's a safe way to go. And when things are flowing good, and it's really smart. And thank God we've got the money now. But you got to put it to work. It's got to make jobs, and it's got to attract people. And if we don't do that, you're right. We're going to be on the same path. So we can buck the trend of everything going bigger and larger and moving to the big centers, or let people know that there's a life outside of those big centers, advantages to being outside those big centers. Maybe you have a hope. It's a hard battle. real hard battle. But you got to make use of the assets you have, and right now we got 90 million. How are we going to use it?
So with a tax incentive, Kevin or Matt, you're thinking of just, this is attracting development, not retaining development that is here. It's more of an attraction for new.
Yeah, I think it's open to whatever council would like. I mean, it's a concept, you know, I think that ideally it will be to attract new development because that's what's going to fuel growth. By just dealing with existing infrastructure, that's probably not going to fuel growth unless the business can show, or whoever can show that it's going to grow. It's going to give them an opportunity to hire some more employees or whatever. I think it could be open-ended to the details that need to go in or should go in, but right now it's just a concept. We still have the ability to pull it out. We're just, if we want to add it, then we need to build it into the budget to see what the impacts might be.
I personally would be interested in understanding better how it would work. As mentioned here, it's fairness, equity, transparency, and all of those things that we would need to get figured out. Wayne?
Kevin, if some industry, some business in the county wanted to expand, could we give them a tax exemption on their expansion or something like that? Or maybe on their whole business for a few years just to help them, to encourage them to expand or something like that?
Yeah, council has
how it's designed. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, council has the ability to, rebate or counsel or provide a policy for this, so which automatically does that, where taxes are levied and when they're paid, you can apply whatever reduction or incentive that you want, and you can have it for anything. You could have it for expansion where they were going to add something, add some employees. You could do it for a deck if you wanted to. I mean, it's open-ended, but I think at the end of the day, if we can grow it by 25% or even 50% of what we've had in the past in those little small numbers that I read out, we're going to pay for it, in no time.
Tracy.
My thoughts go to industry that's already here and, helping them to, I guess we are seeing some leave the area, whether they're just closing down or whatever. I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know if there's somewhere around that as well is to helping industry that is here with a little bit of this break too, but I don't know how it would work, but I'm just thinking, I think we need to remember those that have been here for years and years too.
Yeah, I think that you could put it as broad as you want. Of course, my focus was on something new because that's increasing our assessment where, something existing isn't. So, and if you're going to deal with existing and deal with all existing, give everybody early payment discount or something. I don't know how you would pick and choose who would get it and who wouldn't if it wasn't for new.
Well, I personally would be very interested in having administration look more into what it would look like and developing a better understanding for the attraction of a new assessment base, basically. So other people think that that's worth some time. We get some thumbs. Yeah, majority of thumbs, heads nodding. And so I think it's, you have council support for getting some more information or showing us what it might look like better on the tax incentives. And how about the idea of the marketing specialist tied in with this as well? How are people feeling about that again? So people, or so admin has a concept of how that would all work together with planning and development and getting the word out. Brian, do you have a question?
Well, I guess I would be in favor of it as long as it replaces the position that we currently fund with the city.
Anne Marie?
I'm leaning that way too. And another thought I had is this marketing specialist, or maybe our own staff, it would be good to maybe look at SAIT or some colleges and those, if there's young people from our county that maybe finished a certain program, give them the information of what we have. And I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. Maybe we can rent a building for them for a year if they're welders, or, you know, help them in some way to get started as young entrepreneurs.
Hubie?
I think you're right, Anne-Marie, because younger people, university and college people, because the millennials are active and really want to get out there and do things, and that's the people we're after to attract.
Well, I don't think it's a time that we should be pulling out of our current economic development, personally. That's just my feeling. And I think this is sort of a different focus, and it can work in with what we're already doing. I think our community is known for cooperation and getting along, and as well, I said it already, that I just don't think it's a time to. There are some good things that the Brooks region, Brooks economic development, whatever you want to call it, is working on, and so I would hope maybe we can think about that a bit longer before we make big decisions on what we do there. I don't really see. I'd rather cut in some other area than in our economic development push, regardless of how people feel that it doesn't do anything. I think there are some things that are happening. So just my feeling. This won't be the last time we talk about it. I do believe that people are in favor of a marketing specialist. However we develop that, are you or not? You have some thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you figure for that? We've got some. Most thumbs are up. So how it's paid for, I guess, would be the next decision that would have to be made. So that's a little bit of information to get the admin started on some things, I think. So the more information on the tax incentives and attracting development and the marketing idea. How are we going to get the word out once we get the information on what's happening to us with next week? I guess we'll have a meeting with Michaela, and I think, Kevin, the RMA said that the cabinet was meeting with when was the cabinet even going to know about this stuff? Or maybe it wasn't the cabinet, it's the rest of them, like Michaela, the non-cabinet people, right? And they're concerned. Our MLA should be very concerned. The rural ones, anyhow.
Yeah, for sure. My understanding is that the MLAs are already been briefed, And at this point, what they suggested from RMA was that we deal first with our MLA to get them on board with the strategy, or have them help us with the strategy. And I also think that we need to take it past that to some of the bigger impacts on the list to see if there's anything common we can do.
Okay. Clarence?
Reading that, they say it helps some of this, what they're doing, the bigger players, but not the smaller. Have you any idea what that is? Because that's huge.
Yeah, just helping Murray Edwards in England or wherever he is, I think. I don't know. No, we don't have the details. I love details, and I didn't used to, but it would be really nice to see exactly who's benefiting and who isn't, and what it's going to affect us long term. Not just these. This is just an RMA forecast, like what I do off of the rough data. So I'm really worried that this might not be accurate, right? And it may jump. It may be just a start at 29%, and it might end up hitting 40%. I don't know. But that's what I would like to get my hands on and find out what Michaela knows, or whoever's been briefed on it, what they know.
Yeah, and certainly how it would affect our area. I mean, it's good. I mean, some of the bigger players are huge in our area, and to give them a heads up, I'd really bother me when I hear that some of the smaller players will be negatively affected. And the bigger players, is they're going to go, those dollars that they save are going to be reinvested in areas that probably aren't here.
Yeah.
And that should really tail around if that's the case. So it'd be really good to hear from her how she sees that affecting Cyprus and Newell.
Yes, absolutely, Clarence, because the RMA thoughts on it was that the smaller junior partners this wasn't going to help any of them. This was about big oil and gas that possibly had been big contributors to the Kenny elections. So, yeah, lots.
That's not possible. That's true. That's not a possibility. That's really where it is.
Yeah. So,
well, you just look, Molly, I was just going to mention, you just look at the impacts, and I mean, Fort Mac is 0%. That's where the biggest players in the game are. So there may be some truth to it. I don't know.
I couldn't believe that on that list. Is that your list or somebody else's list?
That's just a summary of all them pages that Wyatt sent me. I just kind of summarized that for you, so you didn't have to scroll through 55 or 60 pages.
Yeah. No, this will be very interesting to meet with our MLA. And so if you have any other contacts with MLAs, like Wayne, at the wedding that you're attending on Friday, the wedding of the year, there may be an MLA or two present. It would be worth your efforts to ask them what they know.
I'll see what I can do depending on who's there, but I'll ask them if I can find them.
Yeah, if you have an MLA connections at all. I plan to speak to Nate Horner, and he's the Rural Caucus chair, so he should know a little bit more. Even though Special Areas is a unique, has a unique connection to the province, they're still oil and gas. Huey.
Is everybody aware about the fundraiser on Friday in 7 persons? There's going to be a lot of people invited there, so the powers that be have contacted everybody, but that's happening 9 o'clock at the 7 persons hall.
What's that for?
Halo. It's a fundraiser auction. So I think they're going to have people invited there, but I think it'll be outside.
Did you say
the building?
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock is the pancake breakfast. Yep.
So Matt and Kevin, are there more things today?
The last agenda item I just threw in there if there was any other council initiatives that you wanted to address or bring up and have us chase between now and our next meeting. But if not, then yeah, that's all that we had received from staff to present today.
And is there anything else from council then? Okay, seeing no hands, I guess we can end our meeting then. And what time is it? 5 to 3? I looked at my watch today.
Let's make that 3 o'clock. It's all the same anyway.
Okay, 8:30 to 3 today. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Matt.